Where did everybody go? I sort of feel like we just threw the party of parties and everybody is left and the beer cans are left strewn across the fraternity floor and the town is now quiet. And we're now experiencing the hangover of what just happened over the last 5 days. What just happened?
But it's quiet again.
It
and
is.
There's no mess and things are put away. And I'm not upset.
I mean, this is called PONDER empty nesting.
But we were not empty nesting this
week.
We
were full nesting.
Full nest, which is amazing. And it was so, so beautiful to have both our kids home for the first time since August.
And I apologize if people didn't like our distraction episodes where we had, we had Dylan, we had one with Kaylee, our daughter, we had one with Dylan, our son, and then we had a bunch of others join in that last episode that went about 21 minutes. Some people might have thought it went 21 minutes too long. Some people, I think we got good chats, loved it.
You know what? It was super fun to have all the kids do that. We've known these kids since, first grade. So that was a fun one for us.
Well, the bottom line is it felt as empty nesters with two kids that were off at college and they came home to experience their first Thanksgiving break back at the house. It felt like the whole town was overrun by them and all of their friends and all the other upperclassmen that were back also from college. But I'm sure the rest of our small town of 35,000 people, Manhattan Beach, probably never even noticed it because they had their oon lives going on. But
or
it
they
is
left
interesting.
Town. A lot of people travel. I mean, how many airport runs did you do this last week?
Did a lot of airport runs. The beauty of living here is we're pretty close to LAX, but oh my gosh. I mean, what should be a 15-minute drive from our house Friday night before Thanksgiving was about an hour and 35 minutes. And in fact, there were a lot of people, if anybody has been to LAX, north of LAX off of Sepulveda is an In-N-Out burger, which a lot of kids like to go to first. Now, we head south, so we like to hit the one that's in El Segundo. But In-N-Out burger is probably about a mile walk, if not longer. And people were stuck in traffic.
Can people actually walk that with their stuff, their suitcases? It's
a pretty hairy walk. If people were going normal speed on Sepulveda, it'd be like walking on a freeway, except it was bumper to bumper standstill and people were sitting there going, oh my God, I'm in an Uber, not moving, and my flight's leaving in 2 hours. I better get out and walk.
Oh my God, I would panic.
Oh my God, people were getting out with all their suitcases and I felt so bad because, some of them were old people, some of them were young people with little kids. It was chaos.
And you can't do anything. I mean, you've got your car seats and you've got your strollers and you've got all your luggage. You're stuck in that line.
I mean, the good thing is that LAX is typically not a busy airport in general, so you never get that type of congestion.
Wait, you're being facetious,
and then,
right?
On top of
we facetious?
We don't have any big events coming up. Like it's not like we have like a World Cup or an Olympics coming. So, we don't have to worry about that type of congestion. So anyway, just a crazy, crazy night picking up people on Friday. And then Wednesday night was actually not as bad as I expected. So that was pretty good. And then Sunday morning, bright and early, 4:45 in the morning this morning was easy as pie. So anyway, I'm feeling like I have a full nest hangover moving into empty nesting. I can't really tell if I'm like feeling a little, I don't know, empty that they've left the house, or am I feeling fulfilled that they've left the house? I don't know. I know our dog is actually really quite content at the moment, not having chaos here.
They're also coming back in 10 days.
They are coming back.
Kaylee comes back in 10 days. Dylan comes back in 12. So we have less than 2 weeks that we get to empty nest again. And then we get a full house for about a month with each of them.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you what was, there were just a lot of blessings. And I know a lot of people out there that have that are in the empty nesting phase or actually experienced it a long time ago or are maybe approaching it over the next few years. It is really nice having kids come in from Thanksgiving. You get to see all their friends. You get to hear what's going on in their lives at these different schools. You get to actually sort of take a look in a perspective of, reading into what your kids are saying and trying to figure out, are they feeling good that they made the right decision of where they're going to college? I would say our kids are both ecstatic about the picks they made. And I would also say 99% of the people, unless I'm reading it wrong, all seem to have felt like they've ended up at the right place. So anyone that's worried about getting stressed about, oh my God, my kid has to go to this school or they're going to be forever disappointed. You know what? Just take that out of the universe. It doesn't really exist. Your kids are going to have a great time wherever they go. Wouldn't you say that?
I think everybody ends up where they're supposed to go. We happen to get very lucky. Our kids are very happy at their respective schools, and their friends are too. Normally by this time, you tend to hear of kids who are thinking about transferring, who are starting to apply. Honestly, I think there was one kid that our kids brought up as wanting to change schools. She wasn't really happy. But other than that, everybody is ecstatic. Everybody has sort of found their way. Everybody has, they're studying, they're doing their midterms, they're doing their fraternities and their sororities, or they're doing their sports. And people are just really getting into the groove. And I think as a parent, that just makes you really happy and content.
Yeah. I would also say that if some of the kids aren't happy where they're at, being from Southern California, a lot of times it seems it's just simply because of the weather and the first time they've experienced. Yes, it's one thing to go skiing.
This weather did not help, meaning that we had 75 and sunny every single day this week.
Yeah, it was. It was. Can I just say it was so good going surfing with my son and a good friend.
And today was super cloudy. It was weird. It's like all the kids left and the fog rolled in.
Yeah. So anyway, if you haven't figured it out, this is Plate and Ponder Empty Nesting with Jen and Chris Fenton. And we do cover the trials and tribulations of empty nesting. And we just got a little hiatus from that with a full nest. So what are we talking about today? What are our top subjects?
Well, I think we talk about some of the football, college football, which I know is one of your favorite subjects. We've seen some coaches make some big shifts, and we can talk about that. Even though it is not my forte, I have been watching because I have a husband and son who happen to pay close attention to it. I think we also talk about this notion of attention spans. Both you and I were at an event recently, and the speaker had this whole sort of monologue about how our attention has been so divided, primarily because of electronics, and we can dive deeper into that. But basically, that's
the trombone for short attention span.
It is. There's so much going on, and we just really can't focus on anything. And then I don't know, what else do you want to talk about?
Well, those are two good ones to kick this off. I mean, I think, you know what I was going to do, actually, because, and this is...
Ooh, you're pulling out research. This is new.
It's a little bit of a humble brag, I guess, about the school that I'm a professor at. I just thought, everybody gets these magazines, right? If you're an alum of a certain school or if you're a professor somewhere like at USC. Oh, by the way, shout out to the Trojans beating up on UCLA this weekend. Thank you. But if you look at some of these interesting stats of the school that I teach at, and I know there's a lot of USC haters out there, so I apologize for that. And trust me, I get it. And I'm not a UCLA hater. I actually like UCLA a lot too. I'm very sort of root for every team kind of person, unless it's like a serious college game that I'm really into. But anyway, I was looking at this, and they had these stats in this magazine, and I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. USC Film School, how many Emmy wins do you think they've had from alumni over the years?
326.
Okay, well, that's sort of a ridiculous number because there might not have been that many Emmys out there. But like 178, 1,064 Emmy nominations.
That's a lot.
How about Oscar wins?
9.
96.
Ooh, I was off.
330 Oscar nominations over the years. That is incredible. How about USC on the field, as they call it? How many total USC Olympians have there been?
Ooh. 117.
547. And what's even crazier is out of that 547, 342 won Olympic medals. That's pretty unbelievable.
Do we know how many golds?
160 gold medals. That's incredible.
Does anybody give the gold medals, like gift them to the school? Is there a place, like a
There
trophy
is.
hall?
Yeah, there's a huge, right by the athletes' dining room, right behind where the Business of Cinematic Arts is like a museum type of, like, I think they greet a lot of the recruits when they come in at this really fancy sort of building. And there's a bunch of things in there, like a Heisman Trophy and et cetera.
That's so cool.
Because they've won 8 Heisman trophies.
Really?
Yes, that's a lot of trophies. And then I thought one other thing that I thought was really interesting is, what was the stat? Oh, California. How many USC alumni are in California?
Oh, gosh. I'm going to make 3,012.
306,314.
I am so off tonight.
306,314. Think about that. That would fill the Coliseum, the Coliseum 3.5 times.
Wow.
It's insane when you
That's a
think
lot.
about that. So anyway, there's my USC, ode to USC. I guess if the administration wants to give me a bonus for giving a nice little promo for the school, great. But I just thought that was really interesting, and shout out to the Trojans.
Nice.
So let's talk about.
Who are we talking about? Are we talking college football? Do you want to?
We're going to talk college football.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I do want to give a shout out to Carson Palmer, the coach of Santa Margarita. Now, Santa Margarita High School. I don't have an affiliation with Santa Margarita High School or with Carson Palmer, although we do know Matt Leinart, so we have some relationship with these like legends of USC. But Carson Palmer took over the reins of coaching Santa Margarita High School, and Santa Margarita High School has a couple good friends that whose kids play there, right? Like the Kesselmans, lacrosse,
right?
And, who else? The Winters family, etc. Oh, and I think even Strader is there now. His kids. So
hello, Patrick Strader.
Shout out to Santa Margarita High School. But what's crazy is that every year St. John Bosco or Mater Dei wins the California State Championship in the Open Division, the biggest, craziest football teams.
Is that
there.
like D1 in like a lacrosse world?
Give me put it this way, it's almost like a D1 school because I think every starter on those teams goes to a D1 program.
Oh, really?
I mean, like this is arguably probably the two best schools in the country for football. I mean, maybe there's IMG Academy in Florida.
What about like a Texas, like a Permian
Texas
Panther?
has a handful down there, and then there's Bishop Montgomery or one of those schools in Las Vegas. The Fertitta brothers are big donors too. So anyway, there's a handful of these schools, but Bosco, Mater Dei, they play in the Rose Bowl typically every year for the state championship, but they did not make the finals.
No.
It was Centennial against Santa Margarita.
Where's Centennial? I feel like I've heard it before.
Somewhere, I don't know, somewhere in LA, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, Santa Margarita won it.
What was the score?
I don't know what the score was.
Wow.
But they won it.
I feel like I'm asking really hard questions.
So anyway, that is a pretty crazy sports story for California.
Woo-hoo!
and really for the nation at large, because that's probably one of the top teams in the nation now. So let's talk about college football, because yes, I am involved with the NIL sort of ecosystem, right?
Is that
Which
a
is
humble
players.
Brag? Humble brag.
No, it's just my job. It's how I make money in order to buy a mixing board for this podcast. Like when you think about it.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, exactly. So I clarified that. But anyway, the NIL ecosystem is typically known for players moving from one school to another. They play for a year, then they make a certain amount of money going to another school, and they fill in slots where they think they're going to get the most playing time and possibly play in the NFL. Anyway, what's interesting is that people don't talk a lot about these coaches moving around.
Except this weekend, I feel like we saw 3 or 4.
It's just been nonstop. And on top of it, it's crazy too, because these coaches are moving when their teams are still heavy in the hunt for playoffs, big bowl games, conference championships, and even a national championship.
Okay, so I have a question with that. If a coach moves, like, Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin, who, by the way, we sort of know. He
Like
lived next door to friends of
tangentially.
ours. He's lived in Manhattan Beach for years.
When he coached at USC.
Yeah, and his kids all went to school here. And,
Yeah.
so there's a little bit of a personal connection there. But yes, Lane Kiffin,
Lane
as you were saying.
Kiffin moves, he just made his announcement, which, by the way, I feel like it was refresh all weekend long to see where he was going to land. And he landed at LSU, which was pretty much what 99.9% of the polls said, right? Like, didn't everybody think he was going to
Correct.
LSU? And you were telling me that he is not allowed to coach Ole Miss as they go forward, correct?
Yeah, so Ole Miss is having the greatest season of the storied program's history. Ole Miss has always been a little bit, I think, behind the eight ball in terms of the SEC because it's a smaller state. It has a harder time attracting people to Oxford, Mississippi, et cetera, versus the Alabamas or the Tennessees or the Floridas or whatever
Or
it
the
is.
Baton Rouges of LSU.
For LSU.
Okay.
So it's a great story, and they've only lost one game, and they're in the hunt not only for they're in the hunt for the playoffs. They're not going to go to the SEC championship game. That's going to be Alabama and Georgia, but they're in the hunt potentially to get through the playoffs and possibly play for a national championship.
Right, but Lane's not allowed to coach, although at Tulane, as our daughter likes to say, it is a football school now. We lost our football coach. He's going to Florida, right? Yet he's allowed to coach in a huge game that's happening this Friday.
Yeah, so
I don't understand.
It's interesting. The schools have made different decisions. So Tulane,
Is it a school decision? Is it a chancellor decision? Is it an alumni? Is it like a booster decision? Where does it come
well,
from?
first of all, can we give a little applause to Tulane because
Woo-hoo!
as
It's
everybody
a football
knows,
school now.
yes, our daughter goes to Tulane. We went to a game a couple weeks ago, which we talked about. It was
Super fun.
great, and they are potentially in the hunt for a playoff spot too. They are playing North Texas in their conference championship, and whoever wins that is going to go to the playoffs. And their athletic director, their GM, the people that are at Tulane on the administration side decided that they're going to allow their coach, even though he's leaving for Florida, to finish up the season, which
I think that's a
is
really cool thing to do. I mean, he's led the team this far. I feel like he should continue to coach it.
I would imagine it's a really cool thing to do if, however, the whole thing went down, like however it went down was done in a very sort of principled, transparent, honest
So
kind
there wasn't
of way.
like somebody
I don't know.
cheating and you find out and you throw all your clothes out
There
the
must have been a
window.
lot of respect involved,
Well,
right? Number
I
one.
think I really applaud that. And I feel like that is something that we should be teaching our kids because as they go to look for jobs, I mean, you don't stay at the same job your entire life. And I think if you can sort of maneuver that and do it with some couth, it really does play into the, hey, if I ever need a recommendation, if I ever need, to call you up, if I ever want a partner, things like that, I can do it with my former employer, my former team, my former GM, etc. Versus it seems like Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss, wants nothing to do with him. It was literally like, pack your bags, please leave now.
Yeah, so I think how no one knows exactly how this played out. I'm reading what everybody else is reading, so I'm not going to speculate. But the difference is that Tulane's allowing their coach to continue coaching through the end of the season. Obviously, the administration must have been okay with that, and the players were probably really pushing for that too. He didn't want to leave them in the lurch, so he actually, out of an act of loyalty and respect, is going to coach too. He probably wants to, etc. So anyway, that's one story. The other story is Lane Kiffin. He's leaving. We finally found out officially today. It was like the longest drawn out
Announcement.
Dramatic, soap opera ever, to the point where people like you were following it, which
Even our
you don't
daughter,
even-
she
yeah.
texted, like, do we know where he landed? Do we know where he landed?
It was literally like keeping up with the Kardashians type of story in a weird way. It was
The
crazy, and there were
Kiffins.
private jets flying around, and
Yeah.
like people tracking the jets and
And like
limousines
tracking his
and
family,
whatever it
where
was.
were they visiting? Were they looking at real estate?
buying mansions
all
and rumors
sorts
and,
of rumors. rumors.
Anyway, just a crazy series of events. And the bottom line is he's going to LSU. And it sounded like he wanted to continue coaching Mississippi through this season, which I respect in a lot of ways. But the school is not going to allow him to do that. And it's unclear whether the kids wanted him to do that, or in fact, whether some of the kids are actually getting on the planes and leaving Mississippi in the middle of this thing to go to LSU, and whether all the coaches that were at Mississippi are all following him to LSU. Anyway, it's a very opposite situation because Tulane is one direction and this one's going another. And the one variable that's slightly different, where you could say, oh, it's apples and oranges, is the fact that the Tulane coach is actually going to Florida. Tulane does not play in the SEC, so it's not quite as a competitive, keeping secrets type of playbook. Whereas Lane is going from one rival to another, and the big rival in another state next door. So it's I think, is Louisiana next door to Mississippi? Yeah, it is.
You're asking the person who has zero
It is.
sense
I
of
actually
direction.
know because I represented that comedian Earthquake, and I went to Mississippi. What was the name of that casino down in the southern part of
like
Mississippi?
Biloxi
But I remember I flew into New Orleans. So anyway, so that's the Lane Kiffin story, but multiply that by a few dozen, right? You had Mora leaving UConn for Colorado State. You have Auburn and Penn State and all these other players that are like, all these other coaches that are getting fired, getting hired. These payouts are unbelievably big.
I was going to say that. Speaking of multipliers, I mean, I looked up his salary history. When he started at Ole Miss in 2020, it was like $3.9 million. A couple years later, 2023, after COVID, it went to $8.75 million. This year, he's making $9 million as a base, and then he's eligible for like $2.63 million in performance bonuses. And what they're saying LSU is it's 6 or 7 year contract, and it's for what, like $15 million? I mean, that's
$15 million a year.
That is a huge multiplier when he started at Ole Miss for 3.9.
Yeah, well, and
by the way, deserving. Like, he's a great coach.
Yeah, well, 100%, he's a great coach. But the thing that drove me crazy when I got into the NIL ecosystem and started working with athletes in that space is that I did get a lot of throwback from friends who believed in the trueness of amateur athletics and the NCAA, and how can these kids go from one school to the next for money? And I said, look, the fish stinks from the head, right? Like, it's leadership is everything. Mentors are everything. The way people are led is how they're going to act themselves. And if you have coaches that are showing zero loyalty to these teams and just going to the highest paycheck, you're going to get the players doing the same thing. So until we lead by example and we change the way this is operating, the players have every right to do what they're doing.
So are you suggesting we shut down the portal?
No, what I'm suggesting is I think we do need to look at the timeline, the calendar, how this stuff works out, because quite frankly, I believe these coaches should finish out their seasons. Perhaps there is a moratorium on any sort of conversations between schools when they're trying to poach a coach from one school to another. I don't know the solutions. Honestly, I don't. But the way it is right now seems a bit chaotic, and it doesn't seem in the best interest of the universities, the players, and everybody else. So,
I mean, it's kind of like kids in high school, right? When they're recruiting, there's a dead period where coaches are absolutely not allowed to make contact with the kids. Then there's a set time, right? And then if a kid leaves a high school and goes to another high school, especially with CIF in California, aren't they required to sit out like 6 games, or there's a certain period that they're not allowed to play if they make that transition, right?
Yeah, if they make a voluntary move, there are certain rules where they are, you could call it quasi penalized, or there's a bit of a buffer that would keep them from just moving from school to school to school all the time. You could say that sort of makes sense. Where it really hurt was down the street. I think that was Bishop Montgomery. I'm thinking Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas earlier, but Bishop Montgomery's down the street, and they had a major scandal where there was poaching and illegal recruiting of players. And instead of penalizing just the coaches and the administration and the alums that were involved with this. They actually penalized all the players, not just the ones that were involved, but the whole teams. They ended the program. So these kids, you only got 4 years to show what you can do to get into college. So if you suddenly can't play football, a lot of these kids lose out on life opportunities.
Yeah,
it's
what
crazy.
do you think happens to the juniors and the seniors that are in the middle of recruit? I mean, the seniors are probably already been recruited at this point, but sophomores and juniors are in the crux of it right now.
I don't know. I just hope
that's a
whoever's
shame.
making these decisions on penalty, these are not kids that went and committed crimes or did something terrible in gangs
played
or
their
something.
asses off.
They played their
on a
butts off.
field.
Some alum or whatever donor tried to coax them into coming to the school. Maybe they paid, the parents something because they really needed it or whatever. And, whatever happened was above the kid. And I just don't know if the kids should get penalized, or at least maybe it should just be a handful of games, not a couple years of their life where they could never get that back.
They're totally screwed. Like, can you imagine if that happened to Dylan?
Oh, I just can't.
That would be devastating.
Anyway, let's move on to the next topic. And one of the things that I just wanted to bring up really quick is, because I do talk China a lot. China had Zootopia 2 open like it did everywhere else in the world. And even though China's market and the consumers have not been engaging a lot in Hollywood content, which has a good and bad to it, Zootopia 2 broke all kinds of records. In 5 days alone, just 5 days, the movie just in China has made $272 million US. It's incredible. Yes.
What did it make in the U.S.?
I mean, put it this way, Iron Man 3, which, by the way, very different time, 2013, we made $125 million total in our run there. This one's already more than double that in 5 days. It's pretty crazy. So the good is that, hey, it's great to get our content into that country and monetize it. It could mean jobs here in America. It means some revenues coming from a country that's sometimes hard to get revenues out of. But the bad thing is what I talk a lot about, which is this premeditated censorship, the censorship that goes on with all of the movies that we make in terms of China. We do not want to make anything that Beijing is going to look down upon, because they could blackball not just the film, but also the studio, all the people involved, etc. And if anybody's just wondering what the heck I'm talking about, you don't have to look any farther than a James Bond movie or Bourne Identity. We always go back to Cold War, Russia, Eastern Bloc countries, blah, 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 blah. You can never have, heaven forbid, a Chinese spy up to something wrong, or a...
Well, if you do, then the movie's not allowed in China, right?
Oh, movies wouldn't be allowed in China. None of the movie stars in the movie would ever be allowed in China. None of the writers, none of the producers, none of the directors, not the studio, nothing would ever be allowed in China. It's why Brad Pitt has never had a movie work in China
because of World War Z?
Because, no, it goes back to 7 years in Tibet.
Oh, I forgot about
Martin
that.
Scorsese would never get anything done because of Kundun. Richard Gere was banned forever
because of the gerbil?
No, not because of the gerbil. Well, we are a PG-13 show here. No, because of Red Corner. So
I do not know that film.
Oh yeah, it's
Officer and a Gentleman. I know that one.
Actually, Tom Cruise technically was banned for a long time up until this last.
What, Maverick 2?
What was the last movie that he got in there for? It was Mission, maybe? But no, because he refused to cater to Beijing's demand to take the the Japanese flag off of his jacket in the new Top Gun.
Oh, was it that? The new
movie.
Top Gun. Okay, yeah, so it was Maverick 2. I knew that there was some connection. Here's my question, though. Is it a little weird? And I mean, look, I live with you. Honestly, I had no idea what Zootopia was about. I didn't even know it came out. I had no idea who the cast was. I just had to look it up. Shakira's in it. Macaulay Culkin's in it. Patrick Warburton's in it. Josh Dallas, Jennifer Goodwin, and the reviews are really, really good, actually. In fact, I'm just going to read this to you. Again, I think it's so weird. I haven't seen one promo. I haven't seen one billboard. I haven't seen one ad. I'm not seeing anything in my scrolling on Instagram. Is it weird?
It's not for you. It's not, the movie wasn't made for you. It's a 4-quadrant movie. And if you were paying attention to things that you had, say, 10 or 12-year-olds involved with, like if your kids were younger, not empty nest age, you probably would come across it with some of the stuff you shop for or whatever it is.
You think I would? Like at Target, I'd start seeing some of those crossovers, or if I went to McDonald's, I'd have like a Happy Meal with a Zootopia toy.
Yeah, possibly that. Or if you were watching, like your kids were younger and they're watching whatever kid programming that they would watch, you might catch the commercials or whatever it is.
It's just so weird having grown up in LA and seeing what marketing and advertising used to be, and being on this side of the sort of on the spectrum and not having kids who
You're on the spectrum?
I'm not on the spectrum. That's not what I meant to say.
You have a touch of the tism?
I don't, but if people do, that's okay too. We support it.
Exactly, we do. In fact, I think I do.
Well, maybe. The point being is that I don't have, I guess, Disney movie going children. Right? We've aged out of that, but I am so naive and like so blind to the fact that I had no idea that this movie was coming out.
Well, regardless, and we could probably talk about our some of the stuff that we learned today on our next podcast, because this is pretty fascinating. Because one of the things that people really don't understand when it comes to premeditated censorship or censorship when it comes to China, if we go back to the Zootopia play there, Disney has probably their most successful theme park in the world in Shanghai.
More successful than Florida and the Anaheim?
It's the most incredible. I mean, I've been to that theme park for business, and it's spectacular. The Chinese built this incredible infrastructure to get you out there, these freeways. It's all kinds of, it used to be swampland. It's all been built up. They have incredible rides out there. The Tron ride is just unbelievable. There's a Zootopia land there, so there's a very heavy exposure to the IP to Chinese consumers there, and that's why it's working so well. Now, keep in mind, what's incredible is that Disney spent all the money and built all of that and operates it, and Chinese government actually owns 57% of that theme park. So 43% is Disney and 57% is China. It's even worse for Universal's theme park in Beijing, where the Chinese government actually owns 70% of that and Universal owns 30%. But where the issue is the fact that if you piss off Beijing, you could lose all your ownership in that theme park. You could actually get completely banned with your Marvel titles, your Star Wars titles, your Pixar titles, your Disney titles.
So
we'll never get in.
So they take their toys. They're literally like, screw you. You pissed us off. We're taking our toys and we're leaving. Well, there's no gray. It is a black and white issue with them.
Yeah, no, studios get banned there all the time. So the bottom line is you just can't. It's one thing to go, oh, okay, well, we won't make any movies about Tiananmen Square's massacre in 1989.
I don't even think kids nowadays know what that,
they don't.
was.
Well, that's another thing. So, is it really all that commercial to make a movie about the Tiananmen Square massacre in June 4, 1989? Probably not. I mean, you could make an art house film or whatever it is, but whoever made that film would be completely banned from anything to do with China for the rest of their lives. But where this censorship sort of goes beyond that is you don't see a lot or hear a lot on June 4th, 1989 about that terrible day in Chinese history, because Beijing has pressured everyone to try to stop talking about it. You'd never hear an NBA player talk about it, that's for sure. In fact, the last time the NBA had huge problems in China, it was because of Daryl Morey, the GM of the Houston Rockets.
I remember that.
He came out and said, "Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong," on a tweet during the Hong Kong protests, and that banned the NBA
for how long?
6 years in China. So talk about billions of dollars lost. So going back to, well, what is that? Why do we really care about that? Well, the fact is, our kids are never really going to know what China truly is because of the way pop culture paints and depicts China. when we think about Moscow, you think about gray skies, dreary. You think about people sort of miserable, a lot of drunks, a lot of spies, a lot of KGB, a lot of, evil empire kind of things that go on over there.
Most recently, I think of Stranger Things, or I think of the last season of The Morning Show.
Exactly. But you can't portray China. In fact, when we were doing Iron Man 3, we had cloudy skies for a couple of the scenes we were going to use. They would not let us use cloudy skies. They don't want people thinking there are clouds over there. They definitely don't want people thinking there's smog over there. So any movie that has China in it is going to make it look good. And we've talked about this before, but if you do that over time, a long period of time, suddenly we'll have younger generations of people that will only think of China as gleaming skyscrapers, the most world-class malls on earth, blue skies, beautiful trees, bridges that are built in days that span gorges of 2,500 foot depth, rivers, and just incredible technological feats and all that. They'll never see the downside of living in a communist country. And that's an issue. And that's where pop culture becomes really important. It's soft power, and it's a very powerful force. And it's something that, as the United States of America, and the fact that we have this engine that creates amazing global content called Hollywood, to know it's stymied because of a particular market is a real problem.
Wow. That was a lot of Chris Fenton today.
No, well, first of all, what have we heard from people? Like, Chris needs to, sometimes you speak a little too much, and Chris needs to come in a little bit.
Well, my brother-in-law did say that I speak over you. I'm sorry for doing that.
Shout out to Ryan Castagna. Thank you for taking my side.
Okay, all right.
So I will say it's nice to go back to just you and me.
I'm not
not only just on the podcast, but just in life in general.
I love my children, and I cannot wait to see them in 2 weeks. But I'm happy empty nesting with you.
I am really happy nesting with you. I think this has been really fun to catch up with you just one-on-one over a podcast, because we just did it over a nice dinner, an alcohol-free dinner, by the way.
I think we need to go alcohol-free for a little bit now.
Yeah, and I think Flynn is getting excited because we're going to take him for a little walk down the Strand and just enjoy silence.
Good night.
So until next time, please follow, review, listen, download, and everything else to help get the word out of Plate and Ponder Empty Nesting with Jen and Chris Fenton. Till next time, love ya.